This guide will teach you how to make heightmap images from real-world map data. It will not teach you how to use the map editor in City Skylines. With the right source material, you can take full advantage of the map editor's resolution. Tools you will need. QGIS, a geographic information system. Access to map data, in the form of GeoTIFF files, DEM files, or the like. These are usually free to download from local government sites, universities, and NASA. Adobe Photoshop. Maps come in various resolutions. For example, the NASA data by default comes in 25-meter resolution, which is not preferred if you want accuracy. A really high-resolution map comes in 1.5 meters resolution, and even lower than that. A 25-meter resolution simply means that every pixel of the heightmap is 25 by 25 meters, so the resolution is only equivalent to roughly 3 by 3 cells of 8 meters. In some cases, you would need to manually search sites of data files, and in others, you can simply use plugins to fetch data by simply providing an URL. In many cases, you will need a login account to get access to the data. In some cases, maps are free, in others, you will need to pay for the data. Our goal: to export a heightmap from a software that can handle real-world map data. City Skylines requires a heightmap of 1081 by 1081 pixel grayscale image, with colors from black to white. Dark colors are low elevation, bright colors are the highest points. The minimum height in City Skylines is 0 meters, and the highest is 1,024 meters. This means that our coastline cannot be at 0 meters, as we need room for the water. But we will get back to that later on. Getting started. First, you will need to download QGIS from qgis.org. QGIS comes for Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, OpenSUSE, BSD and others, and some tablets and mobiles. I recommend downloading the stable version. The software is free, open source. Install the software and say yes to install shortcuts. If you don't, you will have to manually find the installation folder, go into the bin folder, and make a shortcut to qgis-ltr-bin.exe. Setting up QGIS. This is a matter of preferences. To change language and GUI colors, go to Settings in the top of QGIS. Click Options in the drop-down. Under the General tab, the very first selection is User Interface Translation, or the similar in your language. Change if needed. I personally run the software in English, as it makes it easier for me to find guides online on how to use the software. A little bit further down is UI theme. Here, you can change the software to be in dark mode, which I prefer. A restart is required for the effect to take place. You can also change things like the icon size under the General tab. Downloading the world. After installation, you will need to get a map on the GUI of the program, as it has no data to show you. The easiest is to use OpenStreetMap or OSM. You will need this map or similar to have a reference of the world. Newer versions of QGIS comes with OpenStreetMap access built-in. Otherwise, you will have to use a plugin to use OSM. To add a map, simply go to the browser section in the left side, expand XYZ tiles, click and drag OpenStreetMap onto your working area, and release. A world map should appear. If not, try to go to Layers, right-click on OpenStreetMap, and select Zoom to Layers. To download maps from OpenStreetMap on older versions, we need to install a plugin called Quick Map Services. Click on Plugins in the top bar and choose Manage and Install Plugins. Make sure All is selected and search for Quick Map Services. Click it and click the Install Plugin button. To load OpenStreetMap, click Web in the top bar, then choose Quick Map Services, OSM Standard. A world map should now be loaded onto your screen. Finding an area of interest. We only need the OpenStreetMap to find our ways around the global map. In my case, I choose Esbjerg, Denmark. As there are no ruler guides on the size of the area we are looking at, and we can't see that on the front page of QGIS anyway, we will need to set up a print page layout. A page layout is where we set the final area of our export. A print layout can be used to both print a map, and like in our case, export a map to a TIFF or PNG raster image. The map importer in Cities Skylines supports TIFF, RAW, and PNG, but TIFF files are preferred. Setting the project reference system. Since the Earth isn't flat, we need to change the CRS of the desired area. In the very bottom left, there is a text that says something like EPSG:32219 or similar. Click that text. A window for Project Properties, or CRS, will open. Here you will need to find the right, most suitable map translation of the location of interest. Those that matters in our case will start with the text WGS72/UTM Zone XXX. You can zoom in on the little map to refine your choice. Click the top one once and use your key down to select each choice, and look carefully on the map below. You will want to find a pink area that covers your area of interest. For example, for New York, the best choice would be WGS72/UTM Zone 18 N EPSG:33218. For Esbjerg, Denmark, the best choice is WGS72/UTM Zone 32 N EPSG:2232. You can zoom in on the little map to refine your choice. When you have selected your choice, click Apply, then OK. If you download GeoTIFF files manually, like for instance from USGS, it's usually best to use the CRS from those files. The CRS information can be seen by right-clicking on the layer, then choose Information, and then scroll down the file. If in doubt, you can always create a new empty, temporary project, drag one of your files into the project, and the CRS will be set automatically. Note this down, and use it in your CS map project. Setting up a print layout, and adding the map layer. After settling on the area of interest, by zooming to that location, click Project in the top menu. Choose New Print Layout, and give the layout a name, e.g. Cities, Skylines 1 Esbjerg, Denmark. After clicking OK, the Print Manager will open with a blank sheet. If you close the Print Manager, you can always get back to your created layout by clicking Project, then hover your mouse over Layouts, and your layout, in my case Cities Skylines 1 Esbjerg, Denmark, will be visible in a dropout. Click the preferred layout to open, and the Layout Manager will reopen your layout. You will see a blank page, and in my case, due to my location, is a blank A4 page, laid down. We need to change that. Click the empty page, and in your right side of the screen, you will see the properties of the layout. The tab item properties should be activated. Click the size drop-down and choose the very bottom option that says Custom. To the right of Width and Height, there is a drop-down to choose Units. Click that and choose PX. Now change the width and height to 1081. You will see the rectangle becoming a square. Now click on the Layout tab, scroll down to Export Settings, and change the export resolution to 72 dpi. To zoom the page layout to fit your screen, click the bottom right drop-down with a number and percentage sign. Choose Fit Layout. The white page should now cover most of your screen. Now we need to add the map to our print layout. Choose the sixth icon in the left menu, called Add Map. We now need to draw a rectangle that covers the entire map layout. Luckily, there's a horizontal and vertical blue dotted line that tells us when we are right on the corners. Hold the mouse over the top left corner, where you get the dotted line for both vertical and horizontal, click and drag to the bottom right corner, again to get the blue dotted lines. Release your mouse button. It will take a few seconds, but then you should see the area of your interest being painted on the map layout. If you need to refine your map on the map layout, you need to choose the fourth button in the left menu, called Move Item Content. By clicking anywhere on the map and dragging, you can pan the map. By using your scroll wheel on your mouse, you can zoom in and out. Adding guidelines to your map. Now it's time to create the guides. If you want a one-to-one map, these are needed. If not, you can skip this step. Be sure that the map is selected in the top left to edit the properties of the map. Choose Item Properties in the right side menu and scroll down to the dropout, Grids. Click it. But be a little careful with scrolling, using your mouse. If your mouse hovers over a field, like the rotation, while scrolling, the value may change, and you'll have to undo the changes. After Grids has expanded, you'll see a plus and minus button, and some arrows. Click the green plus button. A grid 1 will appear in the field below. Select that and click Modify Grid, below. The top button, a blue arrow pointing to the left, is the close button of the grid you are currently editing. It is important to close the grid editor when you are done, or you won't be able to continue your work. The first thing we need to change is the CRS. This needs to be the same CRS as you chose your CRS under 6, setting the project reference system. Interval should be set to map units. The next step is our grid size. I suggest you make your tiles so that they are the same as zones in the game, so 9 by 9 tiles of 1.92 kilometers. The units are in meters, so replace the 0.0 in the X and Y input fields with 1920. Your map should now have squares of 1.92 by 1.92 kilometers. The next goal is to zoom in on the map, so that we can only see exactly 9 by 9 cells. We don't need to do more in the grid editor for now, so close it by clicking the blue arrow in the top. Now scroll to the top of the Item Properties tab. We are now going to change the scale. There are two ways to change the scale. Either by zooming and panning into the map, so that we get roughly 9 by 9 cells in our view. The other demands a bit of work but gives precise one-to-one maps. We will use that method. We need to add a scale bar to the map. Click the button, Add Scale Bar, that looks like a ruler. Place it in the left side and drag. Release the mouse button. Now, zoom in on the outmost left side of the scale bar, and adjust it so that it is in line with the map's edge. To move it, use the Select/Move Item button. Now zoom out again by clicking the zoom level and set it to Fit Layout. Make sure the scale bar is still selected in the top right corner. Under Item Properties, go to Segments and change the right to right 9. This will make the scale in 9 divisions. Under Fixed Width, change to 1.92. This makes every segment of the scale bar 1.92 kilometers. Now select the map in the top left corner. Select the Move Item Content in the right and zoom in on the map so that you get roughly 9 by 9 cells. As you can see, there's a time where you are either too much zoomed in or out. At that point, notice the values in the scale field. The numbers are roughly 30,000 and 60,000, so manually write a number in the field that is roughly in between. Now zoom into the map by using the zoom button and drag and release to the right side of the map, where the ruler is. Now, it's a bit of trial and error. Change the value so that the scale bar ends at exactly the edge of the map. Note that the scale bar goes too far out, so we need to zoom out more on the map, which is the same as raising the scale number. Let's try with 45,100. Better, but do as I demonstrate here and change the value so it's perfect. Now, let's zoom out again. To continue, we will add a few guides, but this is not necessary, but I'll demonstrate it here if you are having trouble concentrating on the middle 5 by 5 cells. Click the Guides tab and add a guide horizontal and vertical at 240 pixels. Also add guides at 480, 600 and 840 pixels. We have now made guides for the starting tile and the playable area. Now, it's time to pan the map so that it suits your final map. And only pan from now on. First, make sure you select the map again in the top left. Click the Move Item Content button and drag the map to your liking. You can adjust the grid so that the grid lines are also in line with your layout, but only do this after you are done with panning, as the grid will move with panning. Select the tab, Item Properties and scroll down to Grids. Select your grid and click Modify Grid. Now adjust the values in the offset. This doesn't have to be precise. The only reason to have the grid and the guides is just for that. As guides. And from now on, you don't need them. If it wasn't because the guides are so hard to see in QGIS, we wouldn't need the grid in the first place. Continuing with the Heightmap data. Before closing the print layout editor, it is a good idea to lock the map in place so that you don't make any accidental changes to your map. In the top left corner of the page, click the checkbox next to your map to lock its position. Now, close the editor. Now would be a good time to save the project in QGIS. There are many ways to get Heightmap data files. The easiest way is to just use the features built into QGIS, or rather via a plugin. Click Plugins, Manage and Install Plugins. Select All and do a search on SRTM. A plugin called SRTM Downloader will appear. Click and install that. Now zoom to the location you set up earlier in the Print Layout Manager. Be sure to be zoomed out a bit more than that, so that you cover the entire area. Now, click Plugins and choose SRTM Downloader. Click on Set Canvas Extend. This will ensure that your entire view will have data downloaded. When you click on Download, you will be given a login and a link to register. It's free to register but is required to use this service. When you have created your account, provide your login information and you are free to download. These data files are free of charge, but not super accurate. The accuracy is like 20 meters or worse. Not that this is bad. I tried using the city Skylines site terraining.italiananta.com, where you can download a map with a few clicks, but the quality is poor, hence this guide. In my home city in Denmark, we have a harbor, and all details are gone with the online downloader. And there are arbitrary features that doesn't exist on good maps. Your best choice is to see whether your government offers some kind of download site for map data. Mine does, and I can download maps down to 1.6 meters and even 0.4 meters accuracy, which is a total overkill for city skylines. With a 0.4 meter resolution, each file is over a gigabyte for a 10 by 10 kilometers tile. That may not sound like much, but you often have to load 4 to 6 files to get the data for your area of interest. Working on such large files will slow your PC down. To do some search for map data online, search for terms like DEM, DTM, SRTM, map data download. Just be prepared for a wild goose chase. You can spend hours to find the right sites and the right data. Data files are not only just about elevation maps, but all kind of information you can put on a map. Like population density, fauna, traffic congestion, etc. All kinds of data can be downloaded and imported to a software, like QGIS. Try to find heightmaps with an accuracy of 10 meters or less. The lower the number, a higher resolution. So, a 4-meter map resolution is far better than a 30-meter. On low-resolution maps, you could add some blur in Photoshop, like adding 0.5 radius Gaussian blur, but it will never be as good as a higher-resolution heightmap file. You can also create your own layers in QGIS, for example make a map of lakes and rivers. Then export that and overlay it on your image in Photoshop. In that way, it's easier to get precise lakes and rivers. You can also achieve this with an image overlayer in city skylines. But it's actually easier to do it in QGIS. Lakes have no depth on heightmaps, like on the heightmap you see on the screen. That's because these maps are created from 3D scans via satellites or from airplanes. If a land area around a lake is pretty flat and only have an elevation a few meters higher than the surface of the lake, it will be next to impossible in the city skylines map editor to place these lakes and rivers. Because the maps are from 3D scans, also be sure to download maps where buildings and other structures have been removed. Setting the projection and preparing for export. If we zoom out, we will see the size of the height map we just downloaded. We need to create a new height map that only covers the boundaries of the print layout. The data we need to export. To do so, first click on the eye icon besides the map to make sure you work on the correct map. In this project, there is only one map besides the OpenStreetMap we are using as a guide. But click the icon anyway, just to be sure. Click again to show the map. Note that the order of the layers is that the layer in the top take priority, so if you have many layers in your project, make sure to have them in the right order. Right-click the layer, then choose Export, Save As. Make sure raw data is selected, the format is GeoTIFF, and click on the three little dots next to file name. Choose a location and give the file a name. I suggest calling it your map name 32-bit cut version. I'll just call it 32-bit export. Under CRS, choose the project CRS. Further down, choose the map you created in the Print Layout Manager. This will fill out the boundaries from the print layout. Under Resolution, we can see that the horizontal and vertical values are not identical. This is unfortunate, but there's nothing we can do about it with SRTM maps. What this means is that the map has a higher resolution, lower number, horizontally, than vertically. It also means that our exported image will not be a square, but a rectangle, with a ratio of these two numbers. We can fix this in Photoshop or fix it here. It doesn't really matter, so let's fix it here. We will change the vertical number to the same as the horizontal. This is also to ensure we get a bigger image. After changing the number, click OK. A new file will be created. In my case, 32-bit export. It has a different color than the original, but that doesn't matter. If we double-click the original file, choose Information, we can see that the max elevation of that file, the whole map, is max 81 meters, and min 14 meters. The new file, 32-bit export, has a max height of 39 meters, and a minimum of -7 meters. Write these numbers from the new map down. If I just exported this map from QGIS, imported it into Photoshop, and exported it to City Skylines, I would have a problem. There's no space for the sea, as my minimum level is -7 meters. We need to change that. If we move the entire elevation up by 30 meters, there will be 30 -7 meters or 23 meters for sea level depth. That should be enough, but you can change this as you prefer. 10 meters for water depth is not enough. The sea will look shallow and odd in the game. If your 32-bit export file has a minimum height of 700 meters and a maximum height of 1,400 meters, there's enough space for water, actually 700 meters, but all above 1,024 meters will be cut off, as the max elevation in the game is 1,024 meters. In that case, I would lower the elevation of the map by 1,400 minus 1,024 meters and a bit more, so 1,400 minus 1,024 minus 10 meters, or a total of 366 meters. To change the elevation, click Raster in the top, then choose Raster Calculator. Double-click your file, in my case 32-bit exported 1. It will be added to the expression field in the bottom. Now add, in my case, +30. In the top, at Output layer, click the three little dots, browse to your preferred location, and name the file something like your map name +30m. Make sure that output format is GeoTIFF. Click OK. The new file will be created and automatically added. It should be the very first in the Layers menu. If not, drag it to the top. By clicking on the little eye icon, we can confirm that the map is actually brighter. To see how the exported file would look in Photoshop, you can change the symbology band. Double-click the new file and choose Symbology. Change render type to single band pseudocolor. Select all the labels in the table and click the red minus button. Click the plus sign twice. Click the bottom one and change the value to 1024. Double-click the pink color and set it to white. Click OK. Double-click the other pink and change it to black. Click OK. Click OK in the bottom. Zoom in on the layer. My layer is pretty dark, but that's expected with a max height of 73 meters. A quick note here. In case you are wondering how a map, where the sea level should be at 0 meters, but the file says the lowest height is -7 meters, it is most likely because there's a spot or area, inland, where the elevation is below sea level. Just ask the Dutch. Exporting the Heightmap. Now we are finally ready to export the map. The bad one and the good one. I'll show you both. The first one is quick and dirty and will only export an 8-bit file. The terrain, no matter the resolution of the source GeoTIFF, will need a lot of work in the map editor of City Skylines. Simply open your print layout. As you can see, the guidelines are still there. We need to hide the grid. Click on your map in the upper right corner. Click the tab, Item Properties. Scroll down to Grid and click it. Click the green label, Grid 1, then click on Modify Grid below. Remove the checkbox at Enable Grid. Close the map grid properties. Go to Layout in the top left corner and choose Export as Image. It shouldn't really matter if you choose PNG or TIFF here, but I would suggest TIFF as they are not compressed. Find your preferred location, give the file a name, and click Save. You can now start City Skylines, open the map editor, and start working. Note that this method requires that you create the symbology band in the previous section. The better way is to export the file as a 16-bit TIFF file. Unfortunately, this is not possible in QGIS. But there's a workaround. Select your transformed map, in my case Map Tutorial plus 30 meters. Click Raster, Conversion, Translate, Convert Format. Make sure the right file is selected. Set the projection to the project CRS, your projection. Under Additional Creation Options, choose No Compression. Under Output Data Type, choose in 16 to create the 16-bit grayscale. Click Run. A new file, called Converted, will be created. This is a temporary file, and will be deleted if you save the project and close it. Open the file location by double-clicking on the layer, choose Information, and click the link at Path. This will open the location of the file. You can now copy it and paste it into your project folder. You can now safely remove the temp file from the project and drag the new file into the window of QGIS. Before doing so, it's a good idea to rename the file. It has a standard name of output.tiff. Name it to whatever name you want to give it in City Skylines. If you are just doing a test, just open the temp folder, drag the output.tiff file into Photoshop, and edit it that way. No need to copying, renaming, and deleting. Preparing the image in Photoshop. If you open the image in Photoshop, you will just see a completely black image. This is because of the way Photoshop handles 16-bit images. 16-bit images use 65,535 shades of gray, but Photoshop only uses half of that. The feature to fix this can only be done on 32-bit images. Before opening the 16-bit grayscale image, we need to change a setting in Photoshop. Go to Edit, Color Settings, then check the checkbox Missing Profiles Ask when opening. When you now drag the file or browse and open it with Photoshop, a pop-up will appear called Missing Profile. Check the Leave as is, Don't Color Manage. To my knowledge, games don't use color management, so we don't want it. Click OK. Change the image to 32-bit by clicking Image, Mode, 32-bit/channel. We need to access the feature 32-bit preview options under View. But we don't have to do that, as the same option becomes available when we change the image back to 16-bit grayscale. So right after doing the image mode 32 bits per channel, we can convert back with image mode 16 bits per channel. A HDR toning window appears. Under Method, choose Exposure and Gamma. The gamma slider should be at plus 1.00 and the exposure should be set to 13.2. Click OK. After this, the image needs to be resized to 1081 by 1081 pixels. Click Image, Image Size. As you can see, the export image from QGIS in this case produced an image smaller than 1081 pixels. This is why the source material, a heightmap resolution, matters. If you use a service like SRTM, Shuttle Radar Topography Mission, from USGS, the output will become very jagged and doesn't give a great result in CS1. Change width and height to 1081 pixels. Some heightmap sources come in arc-minute resolution instead of meter resolution. This can mean that the exported image from QGIS may not be a perfect square, but vary in height and width by a few pixels. In those cases, you need to uncheck the little link icon so that you can set both width and height to the same value. You can now save the image in the folder for City Skylines map import. The folder is in the location C:\users, your username, /opdata, /local, /colossal order, /cities_skylines, /add-ons, /map editor, /heightmaps. But if you just open the map editor and click the Import Heightmap, there's a small folder icon that will open the folder directly. When you save the file from Photoshop, it is important to set image compression to none in the Save dialog. Pixel order should be set to interleaved RGB. That's it for this guide. I hope you enjoyed it. Additional information will follow after this in the video. If you want to learn more about creating the maps in City Skylines, there are plenty of guides online. And sorry for this fake AI voice. I only have one microphone, and it's a calibration microphone I use to calibrate audio. Besides that, I'm said to be mumbling when I talk. You don't want to listen to that. A guide for City Skylines 2 will hopefully be out soon. It has a somewhat different workflow, because CS2 uses two separate maps. Subscribe if you want to receive a notification. Now on with the addendum. If you use files you downloaded, you will in most cases end up with several or even hundreds of small heightmap files that need to be merged after import. The files are usually zip archive files, with one or many smaller files in the package. As an example, the 0.4 meter heightmap files I can download over Denmark comes in 10 by 10 kilometers coverage. Each zip file has 10 1 by 1 kilometer coverage geographic files, so a total of 100 files. Let's drag in the SGERG 0.4 meter files into an empty project. This is real-time on a beefy computer. Note the little orange loading bar in the bottom. Every time I scroll or pan, the software needs a lot of time to update. But once we have merged, in this case a 40 by 40 kilometers area, or a total of roughly 400 files, then delete the files we just imported, so we only have one large file. Scrolling and panning will become much better. It's not exactly 400 files, as water is usually not covered, as there is no need to make DEM geotiff files of a 0 meter water level. To merge the files, go to Raster, Miscellaneous, Merge. Click the three little dots next to Input Layers. Click Select All. Here, for me, it will take a long time, and I mean a long time. Already after a few seconds, the Windows title changes to Merge, Sparaki, or in English, Merge, Not Responding. Don't worry though. I'll fast forward, for your sanity. This took around 4 minutes. I'll disable the OpenStreetMap layer, as it's not part of the imported files. Now click Run in the bottom. I'll speed that up too, but it takes far less time. Around 36 seconds for 9.31 gigabytes of files. A new file has now been created, called Merged. As usual, this is a temporary file. After copying it to my project folder and giving it a proper name, I drag it into the project. All other files, including the merge file, can now be deleted. As you can see, even with a 9 GB file, panning and scrolling is now easy to the computer. The map is very detailed, and we can even see where roads are. Although Cities Skylines only uses a 1081 by 1081 pixels height map, details like roads will in some situations be visible in the import in the game. An image overlay is an image of a geographic map, like a Google map or as we have used in the guide, OpenStreetMap. You can then, via a mod, overlay this photo in the map editor, set an opacity on the map, and then you can see where roads go and see more precise where water edges like rivers and the sea are. It's then easier to add features with accuracy, or even use the mod to place roads accurate. The current most used mod is Image Overlay Renewal 1.9.1. Link in the description. To export the overlay is pretty straightforward. If your OpenStreetMap is not already on top, drag it in the Layers menu so that it is the very first file. Now open your print layout. The OSM map should now be visible. If it isn't, make sure that the layer actually is on top. If it is, and the print layout still shows your height map, try zooming in and out. It can happen that the software simply won't refresh, especially if you have had the software open for many hours and made a lot of changes. So, in that case, close QGIS and reopen. In the print layout, click on Layout, Export as Image, and choose the right location. The mod needs the file to be in a specific location. Be sure to choose PNG format under File Type. Give the file any name. Click Save. An Image Export Options window appears. As you can see, the values here are from our print layout we set up in the very beginning of the video. But if we export at this resolution, the image will become very blurry. I recommend going with 8 times that resolution, so 1081 times 8 is equal to 8648 pixels. Click Save. The file is now ready. You just need to install the mod, enable it, and start editing. Because the physical elevation between land and water is sometimes small, it can be hard to see when the height map has been imported in the game's map editor. That's the reason to use the image overlayer demonstrated in the previous addendum. But to me, it's in many cases better to do this in QGIS and Photoshop. Especially for the sea, it will be easier to create a separate file in QGIS, export it to Photoshop, merge it into your map image and save the image to Cities Skylines. That's what we will do here. The method can give you jagged edges in the map editor, but if you are better with Photoshop than I am, the issue will be less profound. I'm used to work in Corel Photo Paint, which has way better masking tools than Photoshop. But I know you guys are most likely using Photoshop, and we need Photoshop anyway, as shown earlier in the video. Go to Layer, Create Layer, New Shapefile Layer. Click the 3 little dots icon next to file name. Select your project folder or desired location for the new file. Give it a name and click Save. We need to create a database style. You can add additional fields to the database, but we really only need one, the ID. Click Geometry Type and choose Polygon. Click OK. Now move the OpenStreetMap to the top, right under your new shapefile layer, which I named C. Double-click the OSM map, then choose Transparency. Adjust the global opacity to around 20%. It's a matter of preference. Click OK. Now we can start making polygons. It is best to do this in smaller steps, as it will take some time, especially if you are going for accuracy. Select your shapefile layer, then click on the little pencil icon that becomes available. Click the Add Polygon feature and start making the first polygon. If you start getting tired, it's time to finish the first layer. Start working your way back. When you are done, simply right-click anywhere. Give the polygon a unique ID. Click OK. Once you're done, you can save your work. I do this after every polygon is created. It only takes a few clicks. Simply click and uncheck the pencil icon. Click Save on the pop-up. This will only save the polygon in the physical shapefile layer I called C. Continue your work. This took me a little under half an hour for a pretty complex map. I made a few mistakes along the way, and they can be annoying to fix. To fix errors, you have to lower the opacity of the shapefile layer. Click the pencil tool, then select the vertex tool. The trick to edit or add additional points is to double-click a point or the line, then move the point. The trick is that when you double-click, you don't release the button after second click, but hold the mouse button down. The more annoying thing is that you can't even see when you got it right, and you can't see when you move the point. So be patient when you create the shapes. Now change the color of the polygons. Choose a dark color, like a dark blue. Don't choose a gray color. For demonstration purpose, I'll choose a brighter color. Set the opacity back to 100%. Open your print layout. Disable any scale bar and grid. If your layout has guides, they are not needed to be deleted. Click Layout, Export as Image. The file type is not important. Give it a name and click Save. Change the page width and height to 4 times the city's skyline standard, so 4 times 1081 is equal to 4324 pixels. It will take a moment to generate the file. After that, open the file in Photoshop. As in QGIS, the lines that divide the polygons are still there, so let's paint them out. Now use the magic wand tool, lower the tolerance, and select all the water. This is why we didn't want to change the polygons to be a dark gray color. Check that everything is selected. Create a new layer. Fill it with a darker color than the water from the image you made in the tutorial. In my case, water level is the color 1, so I'll change it to 0. Create a new layer. Use the Paint Bucket tool to color the water on that layer. Choose the rectangular mask tool, then hold Shift down and select 2 diagonal opposite corners. Paint them as well. Create a new, empty image at the same resolution as the image we are working on. Now, drag the water layer over to the new image. Click the Move tool. Drag the layer so that it is almost in place. Zoom in on a corner. Move the layer in place so that you see a horizontal and vertical indicator. This indicates that the layer is right on the corner. Now zoom out. Drag the heightmap file from your project into Photoshop. Select the temporary file and resample it to 1081 pixels. Drag the layer onto your project file. Hide the background layer. Adjust the layer. Now, delete the corner guides. If you just want to do a test, save it in a different name in the Heightmap import folder of City Skylines. Test the file in the map editor. Looks good. You can now easily refine the coastal line.